You know, with the announcement that, Scooby-Doo's next movie is going to be a crossover with Courage the Cowardly Dog, which, I'll be honest with you, I'm just not feeling, really. I mean, I know some others, like 3C Films, might appreciate it and feel like it's an underappreciated treasure, and it might just be. But to me, I'm just not feeling it. I mean, I know they did a crossover in what is considered a lost episode of Courage the Cowardly Dog in the past, but honestly, I could accept, an 11-minute, half-hour, crossover between the two, episodic wise, but I just don't feel the need for a full-length feature crossover to be had. I just don't feel like it's really needed, if you know what I mean. Because again, I look at the art style of both shows, and to me, or both franchises, and to me they just don't gel right. It's just like there's something amiss, if you know what I mean. There's just something, not there that doesn't feel right. So, hey, if the crossover is going to be your cup of tea, fine, more power to you. But me, honestly, I'm not looking forward to it. I just don't feel like it's going to be a good crossover. I could be wrong, but I just don't feel like it's going to mesh very well. But speaking of the Scooby-Doo movies, I got to thinking about the one movie that came out a year and a half ago that everybody was looking forward to when it was announced. And that's The Curse of the 13th Ghost. And I know I've talked about it before here on this channel. I know others have reviewed and talked about it on their channels and podcasts, if you will. And pretty much the overall reaction, if you will, to it has not been good. And what I mean by not be so good is basically a lot of people had agreed that for a majority of the film it was all right, that that at times it was hitting the right chords when needed, but that when it got to the ending, that's when it fell apart. And to me, when I really think about it, had they just focused on Daphne, Shaggy, Scooby, Flim-Flam, and Vincent being the stars of the movie, them being the ones, that were part of the original series, if they had focused on them being the stars of the sequel, The Curse of the 13th Ghost, I think the movie would have been a lot better. I think people would have reacted to it a lot more positive, and honestly, I don't think it would have fell flat on its face. And, I don't think anybody would disagree with me on that. I mean, because when you think about it, adding Fred and Velma to the equation, look, I get it. The movie takes place in the same continuity, which is kind of a hybrid continuity of Mystery Incorporated and What's New Scooby-Doo, so I get that. I understand that. But honestly though, you could have taken Fred and Velma out of the equation, and it still would have worked, and if not, worked a lot better. But the only reason they were there, and I can understand why they were there, was to be that point of view of somebody that's skeptical about something like what Daphne and Shaggy and Scooby went through being real. And to me, I think that's what really hurt the film. In fact, a lot of people felt that it hurt the film because you were basically taking some of the more beloved characters like Velma, who's getting her own series on HBO Max real soon, an adult animated series that is, and you basically made her into basically a righteous DOB. I'm going to put it that way. And you know what DOB is if you know what SOB is. But you made her into a righteous DOB in the eyes of a lot of folks because of the fact that she would always try to pinpoint, logical reasons as to why this happened or why that happened, only to have her kind of be a little bit of in belief, if you will, towards the end, but then shelving that belief when pretty much her theory of, it's somebody behind the whole thing, turns out to be true. Even though at the end, even after that, she still kind of has some kind of belief thrown in there along with the rest of the crew. But the point that I'm getting at is this. You could have taken that all out. You could have taken all that out, left Fred and Velma behind, come up with some kind of storyline explanation as to why they stayed behind, or they had to stay behind, and the movie would have done just as well. You could have still done the same storyline and everything, and you could have had a winner in my opinion. You could have had a winner on your hands, in my opinion. You could have really had a winner. Now, like I said, most of the reaction to it was not so good. I mean, some people did like it, don't get me wrong. I mean, there were some good moments in there. I mean, the first 10 to 20 minutes I thought were great. I mean, the fact that, when you got this guy who's actually, spoiler, actually a detective or something like that in disguise, discovering the crystal ball at a garage sale, and the reaction by Daphne and Scooby and Shaggy are like, oh, blank, that's not what we wanted to see again, And then, the reaction afterwards when Vincent Van Gogh communicates with them and says what's going on, the reaction they have on their faces is like, especially Daphne's like, oh, blank, here we go again. That's not what I wanted to hear. The thing is, like I said, the first 10 to 20 minutes were good, and there were moments throughout the film that were good. When they would, and most important, and when I'm talking about moments being good, I'm talking like moments that I felt, again, going back to what I was saying, had it focused on just these characters, the movie would have been great. And I think these scenes with Daphne, Shaggy, and Scooby and Vincent split up from Velma and Fred, and having to focus on them, I'm not alone when I say this, I felt was naturally right. Like, if you would have just focused on them for most of the movie, which I'll give them credit, most of the movie was focused on them, but you would also have the others involved as well. But if you would have focused mainly on them, without any Fred or Velma interaction, in any shape or form, or any capacity, I mean, you might have them appear here and there trying to be like, okay, something's up, let's try to see what's going on, and have them maybe follow and then go through some shenanigans just trying to figure out where they had gone, where Daphne and Shaggy and Scooby had gone. Had you done something like that, where you have them going through these shenanigans trying to follow them, to the destination, okay, that would have been acceptable. Because mainly a lot of the focus would be on Daphne and Shaggy and Scooby as it's meant to be. But it wasn't. It wasn't. And, well, again, I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm saying, most of it was, but not entirely. And it just didn't feel right when you would involve Fred and Velma. Again, nothing against the characters. Nothing against the characters. It just felt unnatural to have them there, especially with the minor character subplot of Velma's trying to prove the whole 13 Ghosts situation is nothing but a fraud, and then in the end kind of being proven correct or semi-correct, if you will, just to throw it in the fans, just to basically, as some people who reviewed this and gave it a negative review, throw it in the fans' faces by saying, yeah, who's to say this wasn't really the traditional Scooby deal, or would have been the traditional Scooby deal in the end. To me, that was just a waste. Because again, like I said, had you just focused on Daphne and Scooby and Shaggy, and maybe on the side have a side plot of travel shenanigans with Velma and Fred trying to follow them to figure out what was going on, I think it would have worked better. It would have worked better. You wouldn't have to deal with that subplot of Velma's trying to prove everything has a reason, everything has a logical reason, that everything is fake, there's this reason and there's that reason. Had you done something like that, to me, the Curse of the 13 Ghosts the Curse of the 13 Ghosts would have been a better movie. And like I said, there were some people that enjoyed it, but if you were to compare the number of people that enjoyed it to the side of people that didn't, Yeah, the side of people that didn't would outnumber the people that did. And look, those that didn't like it, they're not going to come out and say they completely hated it. They just didn't like how it was resolved, how it was basically made into a resolution that's not a resolution. You know, it felt like it just basically just felt like, you know, the movie to them, you know, felt, you know, had its good moments. Like the movie was doing good for 50 to 75% of the time, but then when it got to that last 50 to 25% at the end, that's when it fell off. And that's why some fans just didn't like it, because they felt like it was a slap in the face, and it shouldn't have been. So in my opinion, I think what could have rectified this is, again, you just focus on those that were part of the series in the first place, and on the side do some kind of traveling shenanigans with Fred and Velma, trying to follow them to see where they're going, to find out what's going on, and then just keep the main focus on the characters, have them achieve the goal of getting the 13th ghost. And heck, you could even throw out the whole masked person in a mask kind of deal, and kind of make it as it was originally in the original series. So to me, honestly, when I think about it, Curse of the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo started out strong, started out good. You know, it had its great moments here and there, but the ending fell flat, and I think that ending didn't need to fall flat had they done exactly what I'm suggesting they could have done. So those are just my thoughts though, guys. I know I sound like I rambled, it's early, but I just wanted to get this off my chest before my mom, you know, gets up in a few hours, of course, because like I said, she's off, so I have to do these kind of videos when she's off. But let me know what your thoughts are. Comment down below. Love to hear from each and every one of you on this. And that's all I'm going to say. So until next time, peace out, guys. Take care.